Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a close look at a YouTube video. It's titled, Why Everyone Hates the Left. Our mission here really is to unpack the core arguments, the examples, the observations presented in this specific. It's all about, political polarization, what it sees as online radicalization, and just the general state of political talk right now.
Yeah, and it's probably important to say up front, this source material, it has some very strong opinions, and frankly, some pretty controversial content, as you'll hear. Our goal here isn't to endorse any of it. We're just aiming to, impartially report on what's in the source. We want to help you understand the viewpoints being expressed so you get the important nuggets, the insights from this particular perspective.
Okay, so let's jump right in. The source makes a pretty striking claim early on about explicit calls for violence. Specifically mentions things it saw on TikTok, like people supposedly encouraging the assassination of Donald Trump, even offering to pay someone to do it.
Right. And the source is very clear. It says this isn't protected speech. It calls it incitement to violence, straight up. And building on that, it talks about this wider thing it calls a new TikTok trend. People asking, is Trump dead yet? That kind of thing. And just the general sentiment the source describes as mentally ill liberal screaming at everyone. It even brings up a comment from Minnesota Governor Tim Walz.
Oh, yeah.
Saying something about needing to be meaner. The source sees that as basically encouraging bullying.
And this connects back, doesn't it? The source mentions a previous video it made, how people are being radicalized. Yeah. And it points to figures like Hasan Piker, the Twitch streamer, saying he's unexpectedly become a major force radicalizing people today.
Exactly. And the source's argument is that since that earlier video, things have just gotten worse. More online figures promoting violence, more radical ideas floating around. It sees a definite escalation.
Now, the source, it also shares a bit of a personal journey, which kind of frames its whole perspective. Describes itself as a lifelong Democrat. Voted for Bill Clinton, kept voting Democrat for years until immigration policies became the breaking point.
And it goes into detail about why it opposes open borders, cites concerns about enabling child sex trafficking, fentanyl trafficking, letting criminals invade our country unabated. It gives a specific example, too, something about Venezuelan gangs assaulting and kidnapping people on Colorado apartments, supposedly just a few months prior. Pretty stark stuff.
And this is where it gets interesting historically, according to the source. It points out that someone like Bernie Sanders was apparently once against what it calls illegals open borders, called it a Koch brothers proposal. A right-wing idea, the source says, arguing it would make Americans poorer and basically do away with the concept of a nation state.
Yeah, and the source really emphasizes it's not just Bernie Sanders. It claims every president on the left that's taken office during my lifetime has been against open borders. Like, gives examples, Democrats hiring record numbers of border guards, punishing employers who hire undocumented workers. That whole history.
So the perceived irony here, as the source presents it, is that open borders used to very much be a right-wing position. And mentions George W. Bush Jr. as being sort of infamous for allowing it, Republicans being pro-amnesty because big businesses loved hiring them as a soft form of slave labor. But now...
No, the source claims cheap labor is a leftist position, quite a reversal. Okay, so turning to the economic arguments, the source actually brings up a point against mass deportations first. It acknowledges undocumented immigrants are a small part of the workforce overall, but says they're overrepresented in jobs that you do not want, like about 42% of the agricultural workforce. So math, I see deportations could be bad for the economy.
But then it immediately flips to the counter-argument, right? Saying that having people here illegally makes it tough for small businesses trying to offer good pay and conditions, and that they're stealing away resources from people who actually pay into the system, causing some people to switch party. That's the claim.
And there's also this whole debate about language. The source strongly prefers illegal aliens over undocumented immigrants. Argues that calling them immigrants implies they're here legally when they're not. Accuses people of, intentionally trying to confuse the issue.
Right. Then there's healthcare. The source makes this observation about a Democratic debate. Claims every single Democrat candidate up on that debate stage raised their hand and said they would give illegals free health care.
And this point is really driven home with a very personal story from the source. Describes being a 2-time bone cancer survivor, had an affordable Obamacare plan, initially like $185 a month, $1,000 deductible. Then it apparently shot up to $1,200 a month, $6,000 deductible. Just unaffordable. Led to going 10 years without insurance. And this specific issue, the free healthcare for illegals. That was probably the exact moment they decided they were no longer a Democrat.
And the source links this back to high medical bills generally. It says emergency rooms have to treat everyone right legally, but claims people here illegally use ERs for regular healthcare, don't pay the bill, and so hospitals just jack up the prices for everyone else to pay for that. Calls it taxpayers getting looted.
This idea of looting taxpayers comes up again. The source gives another personal example. Its own food stamps getting cut drastically from over $700 down to $85.
Which leads to this really broad claim. Asserts that every leftist and their grandmother is just looting taxpayers to make up for their own terrible decisions. Calls it theft, straight up.
Yeah, and expresses a real lack of compassion. Says it's for people who have made bad decision after bad decision, refuse to change.
The source also brings up this idea that poor people or illegals are kind of used as human shields by the government to stop people criticizing these policies.
And it gives a very visual example from its on-the-ground reporting. Claims New York City is giving free housing to thousands of migrants in these huge shelters.
Like 10 stories high.
Yeah, right next to million-dollar brownstones, while citizens are still paying rent. That's the picture it paints.
And this ties into what it calls a corrupt business wealth transfer.
Right. The allegation is that hotels, maybe failing hotels, are getting paid big money by the city, like $300 per room, to house migrants.
So they're guaranteed full capacity.
And making more money than ever before. Potentially millions in profit, the source claims.
And it connects this idea to foreign aid scams.
Yeah.
Mentions the dictator's handbook.
Yeah. Gives the example of aid to Haiti being tied to buying John Deere tractors. The source sees this pattern as rich people preying on the pathological kindness of some Americans and their, lack of ability to research where their money is going.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. The source also criticizes what it labels compassionate, useful idiots. People who, it claims, tried to force you to take experimental medical procedures or be ostracized from society. Talking about vaccine mandates, clearly.
Exactly. And the source has a very strong negative reaction to vaccine cards. Mandatory vaccination. Calls it fascism, authoritarianism, genuinely evil. Claims big tech memory hold any criticism of these policies for years. Just wiped it.
Right. And the argument is these kinds of radicalized beliefs didn't just spark out of nowhere. It says they've been pushed for many years by the media and colleges.
And offers what it calls a classical example. Maxine Waters, allegedly telling people involved in riots to get more confrontational if the George Floyd trial verdict wasn't what they wanted. The source calls that terrorism, flat out. And says it's not protected speech.
Okay, so digging deeper into this online radicalization angle, the source claims younger generations, and especially Twitch streamers, are actively promoting terrorism and violence. Hasan Piker comes up again, prominent.
Yeah, the source points to several things regarding Piker. His public statements, like endorsing Hezbollah, which the source notes is a designated terrorist group, calling it his favorite flag. Also, an interview he did with someone he apparently first claimed was a Houthi rebel. The source asserts Piker supports the Houthi regime despite knowing about alleged child slave soldiers and child sex slaves in Yemen. Claims Piker said, what the Houthis are doing is a good thing.
Wow. And it lists other examples too, right? Of alleged threats from online figures.
Yes. Mentions a Shonda Black telling someone to murder Destiny, someone named Denim offering $30,000 to kill Mark Kern, Mike from PA putting a $100,000 hit on Ethan Klein.
Just staggering claims.
The source calls it straight-up criminal behavior. Says it should lead to jail time.